Have you ever been in a situation where you're wondering why people are behaving the way they are? Or when you see people doing something that you don't understand? You might be wondering what this has to do with our presentation. My name is Alejandra Enriquez Gates. I'm a program director, and my team members are Dr. Ruhi Khan, a project director, and Becky Grijalva, a program manager. We all work in the Center for Advanced Studies in Global Education at the Mary Lou Fulton Teachers College at Arizona State University. If you look at this slide, you can see the names of the countries where we've worked with in the center. Next, please. Now you can imagine how every intercultural interaction has supported our self-awareness journey. And we'd like to know where you're from. If you could please write where you're from in the chat. So welcome to our session, Thriving in a Diverse Environment, a Self-Awareness Journey. Next, please.
Our mission at the Center for Advanced Studies in Global Education is to advance research, internationalize curriculum, develop and implement international initiatives, and convene public forums. These are just to name a few.
In pursuit of our mission, we focus on 4 areas, which include advancing research, internationalizing curriculum, implementing international initiatives, and convening public forums. We advance our research to address issues of educational equity and global sustainability. We work to facilitate opportunities for critical inquiry and debate concerning principles of global engagement, access, and equity in education through public forums. To internalize our curriculum, at the center, we strive to promote global and intercultural learning on campus and in the local community. Implementing international initiatives by establishing partnerships to serve students, teachers, and educational leaders globally. Next slide.
We develop innovative and sustainable education solutions and engage in mutually transformative partnerships and reciprocal relationships. Our team designs and implements research projects in a collaborative manner and expands comparative perspectives and awareness of global education issues among ASU faculty, the staff, and the students. We also conduct rigorous interdisciplinary research that draws on diverse expertise and a range of research methods. Next, please. Now let us highlight a few of our programs. Every life we touch, it transforms ourselves. One of these programs is the International Leaders in Education program that provided teacher leaders from around the world, usually 8 different countries per cohort, unique opportunities to develop their subject area mastery, enhance their teaching skills, and increase their knowledge about the United States. The ILEP Fellows collaborated with educators from local school districts to learn about the American education system and to apply new skills in American classrooms. Also, they designed and developed a project to implement back home upon their return. This program was funded by the Office of Education and Cultural Affairs of the U.S. Department of State, and it was administered by IREX.
Through ASU's Mary Lou Fulton Teachers College and the Center for Advanced Studies in Global Education, educators from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia had the amazing opportunity to participate in a year-long leadership program at ASU. Participants benefited from the combination of English language skills development, professional development coursework, and guided immersion field experiences within our local K-12 schools, providing opportunities for the scholars to transfer enhanced professional skills to the Saudi's educators' local context was one of the outcomes of this program.
Currently, we are working with data practitioners in India through the Data Literacy for Practitioners program. Through this program, we are aiming to enhance the skills of practitioners to build a deeper understanding of data science and data literacy. This is a customized program that we've collaborated on, and it's based on problem-based learning approach to data. And it's intended to help the participants become leaders and advocates of data-driven decision-making. With a focus on problem-based learning, the overall goal is to help participants become more data literate and leaders to advocate for the data-driven practice in their organization. Next slide.
For those of you just joining us, we are welcoming you and asking that you provide in the chat box where you're joining us from today. And just to give you a little overview of our session, our Spark session today is designed to enhance the self-awareness of those of you attending today in constructively considering possible issues that may emerge from diversity leading to equitable outcomes that support equal access, a sense of belonging, and benefits from tapping into the power of culture. We will walk you through our journey that helped us in developing an appreciation for our own cultural identities and becoming self-reflective toward differences in the cultural identities of others. Maybe some of what we share will spark a journey for you. Our journey starts by sharing and briefly explaining where we've been as we explore the tip of the cultural iceberg model.
In working with 42 countries, the Center for Advanced Studies in Global Education engages in planning and preparation. And as we consider our initial thoughts, we often focus on cultural awareness and cultural pre-competence, where we could help visiting scholars understand and integrate into the American culture and work with others from diverse backgrounds. This was followed by exploring the limitations of our own organization in supporting intercultural communication. And as we continued to plan, we recognized and reflected on our own personal values, behaviors, and organizational policies and practices to ensure that they were inclusive of diverse cultures. We also realized the impact our programs and participants have had in the host institutions and communities that we partner with. Next, please. Some of you may already be familiar with this model, the cultural iceberg model from the anthropologist Edward T. Hall, that when he created the analogy of culture, he suggested that culture was similar to an iceberg where you have two components, the surface culture, which represents 10% of a culture and has elements which are easily visible, and those that we usually fall in love with, or I can say that we can see and we touch and taste and smell or hear, like food and music and festivals and fashion and dances and language and greetings, literature. So those behaviors that are conscious aspects of the culture, which may be more easily changeable. For example, in an identity, it is the doing of an identity that we perceive in a culture. And well, we as a team, we've always been interested in learning more about this. In our organizations, we would identify the limitations and what we still don't know about interacting with diverse cultures, because we're only looking at what we perceive of that 10%. This stage would be considered cultural pre-competence. Next.
As we move forward, we will share what sparked our journey and thinking about cultural mapping. Next slide.
As Ruhi just mentioned, one of the areas that sparked our team's journey was the area of culture. One thing cultures build themselves around are values. Different groups place different values, different groups place value on different points of a spectrum within a topic. We were introduced as a team and participated together in an activity of cultural mapping. We knew that this activity would be beneficial to all of us as a team because we knew that we all grew up in different areas of the world. We recognized the importance and the ability to explore self-reflection of and awareness of our own culture in order to work with each other as a team. We had conversations and decided to look deeper at the following 3 areas. As a team, who are we? Why do we want to explore self-reflection through cultural mapping? What are the needs as a team working together, but also what are our needs when working with our international groups of scholars? The results of our individual cultural mapping would point out the need to define local culture, assess identity gaps, and for making the case for investing in our leadership team and the international scholars' cultural development. So, with the cultural mapping activity, we would be able to do this all together.
So let's take a look at what we mean by cultural mapping. This is what our journey led us to. And if you scan the QR code, you will be able to see a similar activity that we went through in order to log our cultural journey through cultural mapping. And so through this process, we were able to identify our own cultural values and how that impacts our interactions with each other and our organization and the people we serve. This provided us a foundation for the process. We think about strong relationships between cultural intelligence and emotional intelligence. Cultural values help to determine which social and emotional skills are most important for effective communication. We explored how to navigate cultural values, to rethink our interactions, and to think about how we demonstrate specific preferences and values across a variety of cultural dimensions. And as we had stated before, different groups place values on different ends of the spectrum. And there really is no wrong or right way to map your cultural preferences. It really is about your own personal values. And it's an opportunity for you to demonstrate mindfulness by using self-awareness relationships, management, reflection, and empathy. And so as we continue through this process, we think about how being conscientious of our cultural values, it impacts how we interact with others. Next slide.
The cultural mapping activity would help us identify our own personal cultural values and preferences that would help us work together as a team. Cultural mapping allowed us to see where we've been and where we are now in order to find our way forward as a team, just as any mapping process might do. Objects of cultural mapping included tangibles like assets and resources, and intangibles like identity, relationships, and possibilities. Together, the 3 of us had conversations around how people can demonstrate a wide range of preferences and values across a variety of cultural dimensions. After we finished the activity, we then considered how the cultural values and preferences of our group could impact our program. Ultimately, we asked ourselves, what could we do to be more culturally responsive as we support social and emotional learning in our program? The cultural values I would like to reflect on through my journey are control, decision-making, conflict, and teamwork. Knowing that there were no right or wrong answers, as Ruhi mentioned, I looked at reflecting on the area of control first and thinking, am I more internal where I believe that what I do in life will shape my destiny, and do I feel I can control my future? Or on the opposite end, do I believe my destiny is beyond my control and that my fate is in the hands of others, such as my family, the government, or a higher being? When it came to the area of conflict, I discovered that I prefer to be more indirect, where I feel more comfortable addressing differences indirectly to avoid upsetting anyone versus being direct. In the area of decision making, my self-awareness displayed that I prefer a consensus type of decision making where important decisions should be made with input and consensus from everyone involved, regardless of their position. When reflecting on teamwork, my reflection revealed that I tend to be more relationship focused, where I value time spending on building relationships and work better with people when I get to know them. Not only did this mapping activity deepen my understanding of my own cultural beliefs, values, and personal identity, it also helped me to understand my colleagues' and teammates' cultural values. Next, let's hear from Alejandra and her reflections on 4 cultural values.
I've had the opportunity to assess my personal values a number of times through the years. And the more I reflect, the more I understand myself, my culture, my roots, and I believe those of diverse cultures. While mapping my cultural values, identity, communication, work style, and teamwork, we all mapped teamwork. I have come to realize how my cultural values adapt to the environment where I'm in. I've been living and working in this country for almost 15 years. Here, my identity leans more towards doing, work-related, accomplishing work tasks, intellectual knowledge. So my identity is more focused in what I do. Versus my essence of my culture is to derive my identity in my being. But I'll come back to that later in a different slide. Team. I value relationship-focused teamwork. I see a lot of value in it. But I'm also task-oriented. I want to get the work done. When it comes to communication, I'd rather use low-context communication, which is explicit, direct, and clear. But why? I'm aware English is not my first language, and I want to make sure I understand the messages, and my messages are clearly understood by my team and others. And because there is little left to infer, I would not want to disappoint my team by misunderstanding. When it comes to work styles, I believe I work well as a team. I enjoy it. I like seeing people and colleagues succeed and thrive, but there are times when I just rather work on my own. As a team, I see the cultural values my colleagues have as assets, and I consider them as learning experiences for me. Next, please.
I believe this cultural mapping activity has helped me reflect on my own cultural values. Taking the time to recognize my cultural values has provided me with powerful insights and thinking about how I interact with others. In terms of emotion, I'm expressive and I share feelings to demonstrate warmth and trust. When I think about time, I tend to be more flexible, and I have an outlook that includes multitasking, but being flexible on deadlines. However, I believe that it's important to be on time for scheduled meetings because punctuality is indeed an important trait. Sometimes situations we are faced with requires us to behave in different ways. Although I welcome change, I am flexible and adaptable. It's important for me to engage in planning as I do not like to do things on a whim. I don't see change as disruptive. I see it as an opportunity for growth and development. When working on teams, I see value in building relationships and goals. Part of this exercise is not to label yourself in one particular cultural value dimension or another. It's intended to bring it to a conscious level. Next slide.
Now that you've heard how Becky, Ruhi, and I reflected on our own cultural values, let's look at the part of the iceberg that we can't see and that, according to Edward T. Hall, represents 90% of the culture. These elements are deep into the culture. The core values, the beliefs, the perceptions, the attitudes, and the assumptions. Deep culture has the being in your identity. Those elements that are not easily seen. The surface 10% has the doing. Elements such as worldview, gender roles, concepts of justice, and also time, dating or courtship practices, and notions of child rearing. We do not perceive them. This is unconscious, and they're difficult to change. In this case, cultural competence, if we recognize our personal values, behaviors, and our organization's policies and practices that are inclusive of cultures, that would be considered cultural competence. Having completed this process of gaining self-awareness, we have a deeper and more comprehensive sense of how our life's journey has influenced the people we're today. We have also discovered how others' lives are influenced by their own journey. Thank you. Next, please.
So as the slide hopefully will appear in a minute, we wanted you to know that as we move forward in our journey, we explore finding our way forward to best determine how our experiences can contribute to creating cultural proficiency professional development for others. So stereotypes and biases are at the root of issues surrounding inequality and discrimination. Recent news reports demonstrate that ethnic friction still persists, as just recently witnessed yesterday in Atlanta. Cultural competence is the ability to successfully interact and develop meaningful relationships with others from diverse cultural backgrounds. Developing cultural competence involves increasing self-awareness, developing social skills and behaviors around diversity, and gaining the ability to advocate for others. Our ideas are founded on Arizona State University's charter as a comprehensive public research university, measured not by whom we exclude, but rather by whom we include and how they succeed. Through Mary Lou Fulton Teachers College, our core values of we need to deliver excellence in education to all learners, regardless of any human characteristics that might lead to unfairness or discrimination in learning opportunities.
So we've walked you through our cultural mapping journey, and we think about how these values impact decision-making and actions. In addition, it helps us to recognize that others may have different cultural values and help us to navigate how to interact with them. The landscape in the US is increasingly diverse, and we need to be able to work together and communicate with others in a way that promotes human diversity. Our team is exploring an opportunity to create a cultural proficiency professional development program that is designed to enhance the awareness, knowledge, and skills of faculty and staff to play a vital role in supporting the development of a diverse work environment. Our journey has led us to start this professional development opportunity that constructively considers issues that emerge from diversity leading to equitable outcomes. We want to support equal access, a sense of belonging, and benefit from tapping into the power of diversity. The program would help participants develop an appreciation for their own cultural identities and become self-reflective toward differences and the cultural diversities of others. Our intention really is that we would be able to equip participants with knowledge, skills, and attitudes to increase their effectiveness in relating across cultural differences and increasingly diverse domestic and international environments. And through this process, we not only help others to recognize their cultural identities, but also for us to grow and learn in our own cultural identities and diversity. Next slide.
We would like to learn to see culture as a whole and, like Ruhi said, tap into the power of diversity. Recognize the similarities between our own culture and diverse cultures, as well as the differences. Explore self-reflection and awareness of our own personal values, behaviors, and learn of those of diverse cultures, the way Ruhi, Becky, and I have learned and seen cultural diversity as assets. Enhance appreciation of cultural differences and ability to interact with individuals of diverse backgrounds, and develop the mindset and those skills necessary to guide professional learning and growth. Strengthen our skills, the knowledge and dispositions that lead to positive interactions and respect for people of diverse backgrounds. And this is cultural proficiency. Next.
It's important to remember, in looking back through our journey, that today the society we live in and work and do business in is a rich tapestry of diversity, and it's only growing more diverse by the year. According to data from the U.S. Census Bureau, our nation will no longer have any single ethnic or racial majorities by the year 2065. Before we come to the end of our session, we would like to leave you with this powerful quote from Maya Angelou. Do the best you can until you know better. Then, when you know better, do better. And I would like to add to that and encourage others to do better. On behalf of Ruhi, Alejandra, and myself, we would like to thank you for your time and attention today, but most importantly for traveling with us on our journey. And finally, before you leave, please take a minute or two to leave a comment about what sparked maybe you when listening to our journeys. You can share your thoughts in the comments sections. If you would like more information on CASGE, the Center for Advanced Studies in Global Education, or would like to follow us on Facebook, here is the link to our Facebook page. And we'll include that for you to have access to. Thank you for attending our session, and we hope you enjoy the rest of your sessions today.